I think what I feared the most about that time was me falling victim to the virus or losing a loved one in the process, the uncertainty of everything else, the panic, the fear, and not having the basic knowledge.
Rocking Mama to Real Mama, Mamta B.
Masks are back in fashion again. COVID, another strain of COVID coming back, thinking back to what we went through, the first pandemic. Well, one thing I can say is at least we're a little bit more prepared now with the sanitization part, social distancing, using the masks. At least we're a little bit more prepared, I feel. The drill, we know the drill, right? Unlike the first time when we had the pandemic and the whole world, we came to a standstill. Remember how clueless we were as to what was happening? We were scared to death about something that we couldn't even see. I think what I feared the most about that time was me falling victim to the virus or losing a loved one in the process, the uncertainty of everything else, the panic, the fear, and not having the basic knowledge. Where were you when the pandemic happened? I remember I had just come back to Nepal about 5-6 months before it happened. I came back with my 16-year-old son and my 2 dogs. We were in Cambodia previously, and I was coming back to Nepal to stay for a few years. And coming back to Nepal to live here was completely different from earlier visits where we just came for a holiday. This was different in the sense I had to start from scratch, everything from scratch, right? I had to know about hospitals and doctors. I had to know my neighbors. I had to know about activities that were going on in town. And more importantly, I had to build my circle of friends. Now, I just left a bunch of good friends behind and moved here, and I was missing them terribly. We did so many things together back in Cambodia. We were always taking part in social events and organizing fundraising events, Friday coffee mornings, travels, sports, arts and crafts, you name it. We had a really good thing going, and here it was back to zero. I had to build my circle of friends. The ones who I had before, they had all moved out of the country. There were some old friends with whom I had lost contact with. I hadn't connected with them, let's say, so we had drifted apart. And some of them were so busy with their family lives, with their own social circles. So here I was trying to figure out how do I build my own circle of friends, because then I could get on with my life a little bit more, it would make things a little bit more fun. And just I was trying to, work on this mission of making new friends, COVID happened, and shortly right after, the lockdown. So one mission was suspended and another mission started. Now, this other mission was getting my parents over to come and stay with me during the lockdown. I was so happy to have them with me. It was a relief that we were all under one roof. It was a relief on one hand, but it was extremely stressful on the other hand. The reason being, my father was a cancer patient, so he needed chemotherapy every 3 weeks. Now, this meant having to take him to the hospital and back, exposing ourselves to the virus, and opening up the risks of being infected by ourselves or, bringing the virus back home and infecting the others at home. What would we do if one of us came down with the virus in such a scenario? So that was highly, highly stressful at that time, really challenging. It was like being caught between a rock and a hard place. So my dad was frustrated. He was angry for being sick. He was the kind of person who needed to meet people every day and talk to them. Now he couldn't do that. He felt isolated. So all of this feeling of resentment and anger, they kind of transmitted to all of us. My mom was worried 24/7 about Dad. Would we get his medication on time? Would we be able to continue with his chemotherapy? I just hope nobody gets infected. So she had her own worries. My son came back and he had just barely started his first year of IB, looking forward to making new friends here in Nepal and traveling all over Nepal for the first time. There he was, back at home, online classes, bored as ever with 3 adults who looked stressed all the time. And there I was. Now, I was going through a different phase in my life. I realize now, looking back, I was having these sleepless nights, hot flashes, and heart palpitations, anxiety level, mood swings, and irregular periods that were very heavy at times. All of this happening at the same time. I was like, what is going on? Is this a lockdown symptom, a lockdown syndrome? Is everybody else suffering from this? I asked my mother about this. Did she go through any of this in her mid-40s? And she says, I don't remember, honestly. She said back then, daughter-in-laws, we were not supposed to show any physical or mental weaknesses. It was not tolerated. So I can't remember much. I probably did, but I can't remember it, she said. What she also said was how she welcomed the 4 days of menstruation, because those 4 days, they would be like notsune, the meaning of being untouchable. And they would have to sit aside and do other simpler chores, but didn't have to go into the kitchen and do the heavy work. So that meant light work for 4 whole days. And that was a blessing for her. It was funny because I said, how come a superstitious belief that, women are impure during menstruation could actually work in favor for somebody? And this is true. I mean, many places that I've been to, and I talked to the daughter-in-laws who work there, they all say the same thing, that they welcome their 4 days of periods because it's like 4 days of a little less work. But having said that, it's not the same in another part of Nepal, like in Western Nepal, where we still follow this disastrous practice of chaupadi, where women are put inside mud sheds and places, dark places, kept there for 4 days or longer. We're deprived of food, deprived of water and hygiene, where they have a higher risk of being sexually abused. And they're kept there like as if, just discarded, which is so sad when I think of it. At this day and age, we are still practicing such evil practices. Anyway, coming back to menopause here, what were your symptoms? What were you going through in your earlier perimenopause phase? Because for me, the hot flashes were just getting more and more regular and frequent. And the soles of my feet were burning. And I would always look for a bucket of ice water and place them inside and wish I could just leave them there for the whole day. And this went on for a year. Yes, for a whole year, and I still couldn't figure out what was happening. I didn't know whom to talk to. Then came March 2022 when the lockdown was finally lifted. Oh my goodness, didn't we all feel like the birds that were locked up in a cage for a long time? Suddenly the door opens and you're like looking outside. Should I go out? Should I not? What do I do? Where do I go? Yeah, I was like that for a whole week or so. I went to my doctor right away because I knew that this issue had to be faced. So I told her all about my concerns, the symptoms that I was going through, and explained to her about my irregular periods, my heavy periods. And she told me the same thing that I had been guessing, that, yeah, perhaps it is the lockdown syndrome. The stress of it all. So many women have come to me complaining about this, she said. So I agreed on that. But I said, tell me about my irregular and heavy periods, though. What does that mean? And she was like, oh no, that happens now and then, and stress causes that too. I'll give you some iron supplements. Go home and do some yoga. You will feel better in a few days. And okay, now when you stop getting your periods, count 12 months. And once you're done with 12 months, then come back to me. I said, why are you so specified about 12 months? She says, well, if you've had 12 months of no periods, you are going into menopause. So that's when she used the term menopause. I said, is that what I'm going through? Are these the symptoms for menopause? I said, is there some more things that I should accept? And she was like, होइन पर्दैन. नेपालमा नेपाली womenहरूलाई त्यस्तो धेरै गाह्रो symptoms हुँदैन मेनोपजको. पिरै नगरे हुन्छ, 1-2 महिना यसो गर्मी हुने यस्तो हो, त्यसपछि सकिहाल्यो. पिर नगर. This is what she told me. honestly. So I left that place and I never went back. In fact, I went back to doing some research. I tried to collect information from different articles. I didn't get so much, but I got the basic facts about how you start with perimenopause, move to menopause, and then you go to postmenopause, the normal age around which this starts, and the symptoms. And sure enough, I related very well to all the symptoms that were going there. And there's so much more that I luckily hadn't gone through yet. So now just gathering this information and acknowledging all of this made it so much more easier for me to understand myself. And I was just thinking, if I had only known a little bit about this before I headed into perimenopause back then, I would have been such a different person. I would have accepted the situation in a different way. Perhaps I would have been kinder to my parents, my family, and most importantly, I would have been so much kinder to myself because I was harsh on myself. I was angry for feeling this way, angry and frustrated for not being more accommodating or more understanding. But because I didn't know what I was going through. So that was my perimenopause journey. What about yours? Please, can you send me some more messages and let me know what you were experiencing, the things that you are learning about, things that you would like to share. And like always, if you do not want to disclose your name, your address, your personal information, they will not be. 50-year-old mom of 2 grown-up boys. She says, I live in an all-male household and everything was going fine till about 3 years ago when I lost my fuse. I get so angry and frustrated at the smallest of things, and I just want to be left alone. The boys, even when they talk, it sounds like noise to me. They don't understand me. They've given me nicknames, mean nicknames, and I'm not being able to explain to them, and they surely do not understand. It's just really a sad situation. I hope we can make women and men more aware about this issue. Thank you so much for that little bit of information about your experiences. We have to make people more aware about these issues, especially issues that have a stigma attached to it, like menstruation, like menopause, like mental health. All of this needs to be addressed and talked about as much as possible. And you know what? The learning, it all begins at home. It's up to you and me. I'm really looking forward to sharing more of these menopause stories in the future episodes. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel, stay connected, and send us your story, share with us your information, and together let's create more awareness about subjects like this. Oh, I almost forgot. Keep the mask on. Safety before everything else.
Hits FM 91.2.